Today's Pendle Council livestream will start in just a few minutes. You can view tonight's meeting agenda by visiting pendle.gov.uk/meetings, where the upcoming meeting notes are available to view. We will go live very soon.
All of the future Pendle meeting agendas, as well as previous meeting reports and minutes, can be viewed on the Council website at pendle.gov.uk/meetings. Tonight's session will start shortly.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Executive Committee meeting. My name is After Mahmood, I'm the Chairman of this committee. The introductions to my left.
Rose Rouse, Chief Executive.
Good evening, Philip Spur, Director of Police.
Karen Spencer, Director of Resources.
Emma Louise Wells, Head of Finance. Sarah Whitwell, Head of Housing and Environment and Health.
Dorothy Lord.
Councillor Tom Webb.
David Whip.
Councillor Zafar Ali.
Councillor Mohammed Iqbal.
Councillor Hanif.
Iftikhar Bukhari, Head of Economic Growth.
Paul Preston, Democratic Services Manager.
Howard Culshaw, Head of Legal and Democratic Services.
Councillor Stone.
Councillor Martin Stone.
Councillor Church.
Councillor Chris Church.
If you want to introduce yourself, can you
I'm Chris Waddington. I'm here to speak on behalf, and make a question to you.
Sure.
On behalf of Pendle Forest Ladies Hockey Club.
So the first item on the agenda is apologies, declaration of interest.
None.
Public question time. So I've got Mr. Waddington.
You want to speak now?
Yeah, sure. You have up
Do
to
you want to
maximum
stand
5
up?
minutes. Yeah.
Right, good evening first of all. The last time I was in Nelson Town Hall before this week was in May 2019. When the Mayor and Mayoress of Pendle gave a civic reception for Pendle Forest Ladies Hockey Club. This was after they had been voted England Ladies Hockey Club of the Year. Since then they have gone from strength to strength, winning at the Olympic Stadium in London, and are the current Northern Conference champions. They are now recognised as the best hockey team ever to have been produced in Lancashire over the past 100 years, flying the flag for Pendle around the nation. However, at the last meeting of the Executive Committee, it was thought that only one ground was suitable for hockey in Pendle. That is at Pendle Vale College. That pitch we currently hire for hockey matches in the First Division of England Hockey. The club's worry at this time is that if what happened in 2020 during the COVID lockdown happened again at Pendle Vale, when at Martin Heights College where we were playing, there was no consultation with the club, and during the lockdown and the preceding time after, before the season started, the hockey pitch was dug up. When we went to train there in August, we couldn't play, and we had nowhere to fill our fixtures for the following season. This is because it had been converted to a 3G plastic stroke glass pitch. I'm not aware if you're understanding current hockey rules since 2005. We have international players, and therefore every team allocated to an hockey league, whether it be Longridge at that level or whatever, have to play on an Astro carpet. And therefore the pitch before at Marsden Heights was an Astro carpet pitch, and they changed it to a plastic grass 3G pitch, which is mainly for football these days. Thankfully, because we had two pitches allocated in 2016, Pendle Vale School was still left to us, and we approached them and they allowed us to play there where we are playing at this time. However, what happened at Pendle Vale, we've since discovered as the academy schools have a great say in whatever they do. They could just simply say, oh, we're turning that into a car park, and we wouldn't have any say in it, and therefore the club would become obsolete. So we want to know, we are working our socks off in many ways, including trying to survive in the First Division, which we're holding us on. Our last match we played at Gloucester, and it was Gloucester 5, Pendle Forest 5. I call that a good result and a good game. But the thing is, we want to know where the council would stand if this occurred at Pendle Vale, where for whatever reason, I mean, yeah, they were in the school, we're hiring the pitch. If the pitch disappears, we either move the club entirely to sort of Preston, or we've nowhere to be Pendle Forest anymore. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Warrington. I mean, thank you for raising awareness, you know, with the hockey team, one of the best ones in the last 100 years. And it's a very successful story that, you know, you kind of put to us. I'm fully supportive and in favour of sports facilities, especially like hockey.
Well, in fact, can I just say that
if I can finish that. Yeah, so as Pendle Council, you know, we don't have any powers over educational sites, but we're happy to write to Pendle Vale School, raising all the concerns that you mentioned, and the chairman of Pendle Vale is actually sat around the table here.
Very good. We've no complaints about how we're treated at Pendle Vale.
So that's something
it's
that...
just circumstances change.
Yeah. Can I just help through you, Chairman? Sorry, I thought you finished.
So I was going to say, we've got the chairman of Pendle Vale College here, the school, so I'm going to bring him in and he can probably give some thoughts on that.
Thanks. Through you, Chairman. Mr. Waddington, Pendle Vale have no intentions of digging up the pitch. We hold you as valued people that use the facility, and certainly whilst I'm chairman and even when I'm not, the school has no plans to dig up the pitch, so you're more than welcome to stay there for the next 100 years.
That's fantastic.
Okay. Councillor McNeil.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not involved with Pendle Vale, I'm not involved with the hockey, but I'm very proud of the fact that we have got international players originating from Pendle and being very successful. One of them is from my patch. The playing pitch strategy is what we had at the last meeting, and I mean that set out what we should have in an ideal world for all sorts of sports, including hockey. And I think at the time I said something to the effect of, well, it's a grand strategy, but as Pendle Council we don't have the wherewithal to do the improvements or expand the number of pitches that the strategy would call for. So I could look it up in the minutes, but our resolution was that we would facilitate external bodies, perhaps such as the hockey team, accessing funding in order to carry out the necessary improvements and the like, and that we would be looking to Sport England, whoever it may be, to try and funnel that funding through to the grassroots teams and clubs that need it. So I think that the contribution that we've had just emphasises the need for that investment, really.
Thank you. Totally agree with you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wellington.
Thank you. Most helpful.
Okay, next item is minutes of the previous meeting.
Move it.
All in favour? That's good. So what we'll do is bring item 11 for economic, just got 50 here, so
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't expecting that. Sorry, my fault. Right, I'll carry on.
Would you bring back in after?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'll get this mocked up.
I'll just bring Sarah in for the next one, number 12. So that's air quality status report.
So the report is for the air quality status report for Pendle, and its purpose is to provide members with progress made to improve air quality in Pendle. So the air quality status report makes a significant contribution towards the Climate Emergency Action Plan, with statutory responsibility to monitor air quality for emissions of nitrogen dioxide, which links to respiratory problems. So we monitor it at 52 locations around the borough, near schools and by roadsides against the standard. Where the levels exceeded, then the action is required by declaring an air quality monitoring area. In 2011, a monitoring area was declared in Colne. Alongside this, we have the Air Quality Action Plan that sets out a timetable of current and future actions taken by Pendle Council and other stakeholders to improve air quality in the borough. We have 45 actions on the plan, which typically include improvements to transport infrastructure. Progress made against these actions are recorded in the air quality strategy. The good news is that in the 2023 and 2024 air quality strategy, levels of nitrogen dioxide are reducing, impacting on healthy communities and contributing to our Climate Emergency Action Plan. It's very positive to the extent that we're looking to invoke the Colne Air Quality Action Plan in current months.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, Chairman, just following on from Sarah, obviously she mentioned that in 2011 we introduced the air quality thing in Colne, and 13 years later we're in a position now to ask the executive that we revoke that order. I think that shows some progress, and obviously the council declared a climate emergency in 2019, and all colleagues around the table, and certainly across the council as well as officers, are working to deal with that emergency. So I'd move the recommendations as set out on this one.
Thank you. Second that. Thank you. Councillor David Wick.
Chair, can I just be clear, are there any unintended consequences as a result of relinquishing the air quality control area, I recall that it was a factor in planning applications for Colne, and the level of traffic, the air quality issues were considered as part of appeals into refusing planning in some areas. So would the revocation have the unintended consequence of actually increasing the risk of greenfield building in an area that we don't want it? Don't know if anybody can answer that.
Sarah?
What I would say is the guidance that we work to, provided by DEFRA, suggests that in these circumstances we are required to revoke the air quality action area. We will continue to monitor on the site as an area to make sure that any increased NOx in that area will be, taken into account, and again, that it will trigger, if it meets the trigger, which is 40 micrograms per cubic metre, it will then trigger it going back into the air quality action plan.
Okay, it sounds like we don't have much of a choice anyway.
Yeah, just a comment from myself. I mean, it's very positive, that the air quality improvements, there have been massive improvements over the last couple of years. But that site is probably one of the most prominent, very highly congested kind of part of the borough. And, going forward, monitoring-wise, keeping an eye on, if you will, over the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, what kind of plans do we have in place to make sure it doesn't go back to the levels it was, say, 10, 15 years ago?
So we have funding to do nitrogen dioxide. We have kind of monitoring sample tubes, which diffusion tubes, which we monitor and change every month then after the labs. That gives us kind of an early indication of what's happening, and that feeds into the air quality strategy that we submit to DEFRA every year.
Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. The next item is animal welfare licensing policy.
Item 11.
No, Sarah's got this one as well, so
Sarah's
that's
as well,
all.
so I suppose we'll come back to that.
So the animal welfare licensing policy, this is a new introduction which is based on legislation, best practices, statutory guidance. It covers the environmental health involvement in the animal welfare licensing inspections, provides clarity and transparency for officers, businesses and applicants. The scope of the policy covers animal welfare licensable activities such as selling animals as pets, boarding and training cats or dogs, hiring out horses, keeping or training animals for exhibition. Presently we have 37 premises with 39 licences issued in Pendle. So the policy provides clarification around a business test to determine the grounds for issuing a licensing, information around the application process, the star rating, the frequency of inspection, refusal of licence, and what happens when the operator dies. It's requested that the Executive Committee approve the draft policy.
Thank you.
Happy to move the recommendation, Chairman.
Second it. Councillor Tom.
I was just going to second it, yeah.
Councillor Allen.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I'm glad we've brought the policy around. I personally noticed a massive increase in breeding of dogs, cats, and animals. There's so many horror stories as well online in terms of the misuse of those processes. So I'm really happy to see that the council's looking at adopting the policy.
Councillor Davies.
Thanks, Chair. We've had our fair share of issues in terms of some establishments, and just a general question really is whether this policy will strengthen our hand when addressing some of the issues that we have had in recent years with, if I use the phrase puppy farms, it might be a bit too sweeping, but I think that is a major concern, and we've had meetings in this room where we've had a full complement of members of the public protesting about certain premises. So will this strengthen our hand? Will we be more effective in controlling those activities as a consequence of adopting this?
So we're limited in terms of scope and what we can and cannot do as per the regulations. So what the policy does is is make that clear in terms of how we are applying the guidance, the regulations. So I think it's more for clarity and transparency rather than a change in the regulations.
Okay, all those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
I'll try again.
Back to number 11, economic support strategy.
Thank you, Chair. So the report that's put in front of you is set out in terms of developing an economic strategy for the next 4 years from 25 to 28. And it's based upon the existing strategy that was developed in 2025 after the turmoil of the COVID pandemic. So it's in addition to that. So basically the strategy that we've put in front of you is set around 3 main drivers. One is our place, the other is our business, and the other is our people. So each one of these planks is designed to tackle some of the 7 challenges and barriers that we've identified. So some of the challenges are high resilience on manufacturing, lack of local employment opportunities, low average earnings and low levels of productivity, and high economic activities. And there's barriers to that as well, in terms of Pendle supporting infrastructure, limited transport connections through the borough, skills shortages in key sectors and low retention of young people, and deprivation in the local environment and the breadth of the quality of the housing. So in summary of each one of these themes, so if you pick on the first theme, our people, it sets out a broad strategy in terms of identifying some of the challenges within there, but then it sets out a number of key priorities as well. So for example, in this particular strategy, it sets out targeting young people, older people, the black and minority ethnic people, and people facing health barriers to work. And after that, there are some action plans that come out. So there's 9 key action plans, and I've outlined them in paragraph 9. 3 of them is basically to inspire ambition and improve life chances for young people, align skills and provisions with actual business needs as well, and increase access to and promote healthy and active lifestyles. The second plank of this strategy is to look at our businesses, and the theme of our businesses, whilst there's been a growth in business stock, it's not translated to employment and growth as well. There's signs of vulnerability in terms of the diversity of the businesses that we have in the borough, and also productivity remains low. And there are 6 key sectors that are impacting on the business theme, which include manufacturing, information and communication, professional and scientific and technical, the visitor economy, the foundation economy, and the green economy as well. And it sets out a 9-point action plan. The 3 points I put out in paragraph 12 sets out the key business supports for skills diagnosis that is required, seeking opportunities to extend business growth and resilience and programs around that, and strengthening economic partnerships as well. And the final point of the 3 themes is our place. And within the context of our place, there are 3 key objectives. So to create vibrant places with lasting appeal, attract and retain our existing residents and employees and visitors and investors. And again, there's a 9-point action plan, but the main 3 key points that come out of the our place theme is to develop new and quality employment sites and premises to meet the demand, ensure that Pendle offers a quality housing to meet identified particular needs, and enhance the place narrative and also a brand identity for Pendle itself. So out of this, we've set out, or the strategy sets out a forward plan, and the forward plan is basically mentioned out in section 17, where the success of this strategy is measured in the creation of new jobs, improving skills, and the profile for working age people in Pendle, and also increase investment pipeline for Pendle itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mufti. I'll move the report that's in front of us. I think there's been quite extensive consultation done with our partners and stakeholders and also members. And economic growth is crucial for, for the future. And IFTI highlights the things like business growth, upskilling, health inequalities, green economy, attracting and keeping people in Pendle, and improving their housing conditions. And to be honest with you, we really need to see, I think last couple of years, probably things haven't moved at a pace that probably we want things to be progressing at. So hopefully in the next 5 years, we want to have like a faster pace of, say, like economic growth, which improves the quality of life for people in Pendle. So I'm happy to move the report and thank the team.
Thank you, Chair. I'll second it, although I do have reservations, which I'll come to. I think that there's a basic flaw. That's too strong a word, but the report sets out that one of the challenges is a high reliance on manufacturing. Now, I accept that, and for all the time that I've been a councillor, we've tried to diversify away from manufacturing. But I think, actually, that is a strength. The fact that we are a borough that makes things, that, people create wealth, create goods that literally go all over the world. I think that's something that we should celebrate, and so I think my basic finding with this is it's looking at all the negatives, but it's not celebrating some of the positives. And I think we need to be positive about the positives. And I'm not sure, my rather strong views about brand identity, where, quite frankly, I don't think it's brand identity that we should be concentrating on. We should be looking at, the things that we are good at doing and celebrating those. And how many times have I sat in this room extolling the virtues of what was Briarfield Mill and the regeneration of that into Northlife, which in part celebrates and makes use of our heritage, and into the future creates a base for employment and jobs. I think another strength is that we are a borough of small to medium enterprises. We have, I don't know whether it's a record, but we've got 3,000 small businesses, and I think that again is a strength. Now, they may be quite disparate and they may not have a cohesive whole, but I think that actually underpins how strong we are in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of people using the skills, creating businesses, and some of them going on to have very large enterprises. And if I take one in Barnoldswick as an example, Hope Technology, where a couple of engineers who used to work at Rolls-Royce got together, created a business, and now that employs, I don't know how many people, but into the hundreds of people, exports all over the world with high-end components for bikes, builds the bikes that we see winning gold medals at the Olympics, and is a huge success story. And I mean, that is one of a few that I can think of, and there'll probably be more that I don't know about. So that's another positive. And I accept we have got lots of downside, but I don't think that concentrating on the downside is necessarily the way that we should improve the lot overall. So those are just a few comments. I do support the strategy. I think the outlook could have been a little bit rosier. But I wanted to come back to the paragraph 3, and it says driving economic growth between 2025 and 2028 and a programme of actions to be undertaken over the next 4 years within the context of a broader 15-year economic vision. And when I walked into our office this evening, and I'm going to pick this up now, so I thought the writing, well, it wasn't on the wall, the writing was on the desk, and it was there. And I thought, is this a harbinger of doom? Because clearly the talk in government by the MPs is Pendle has got 2 years. Are we being shown the door? And are all our aspirations for a 4-year action plan and a 15-year strategy just going to be thrown on the scrap heap of exit signs that there are in my office? Because that, to my mind, is the way that it's going. And I fear for the next 2 years, all we're going to be talking about is local government reorganisation, not addressing economic strategies or trying to do this, that and the other about increased employment and all that sort of stuff. We are going to be consumed by what is being driven from government. When we get the white paper, we'll all be jumping about and not dealing with the problems affecting Pendle. So I think exit signs or not, my underlying fear, going beyond what I said earlier on, is that we're doing all this work, but it's going to come to naught if we're not careful.
We're going to be positive, and we're going to be ambitious, and we're going to stay focused and deliver within 2 years.
And then we're going to be scrapped.
There's an arrow there that says the only way is up.
The only way is up. Well, there we go. By the by, it was already on. It's obviously an emergency sign that hasn't run out of battery yet.
Okay. Before it's been Philip, do you want to?
Yeah, just very, very briefly, Chair. So, no, I do accept Councillor Whip's points. I guess it's human nature to maybe focus on some of the negatives and the challenges rather than the positives. But we are a borough of many, many, many advantages and things we need to celebrate and be very, very proud of. So, you know, young, vibrant population, our great industries, the fact we've got growing businesses, our great places, and so on and so forth. Councillor Whip is entirely right about manufacturing. At paragraph 11, we do talk about the 6 key sectors we need to focus on and build upon going forward, and manufacturing is the first of those. Yeah. So we do recognise we've got a great base. We need to grow on that. We need to actually grow the SMEs. And in terms of what happens in the medium term, obviously, not going to comment on that, beyond the fact that we are going to work hard, Nifty and his team work hard over the next couple of years going forward to make sure we deliver as much as we can of this, and there will be a very clear action plan coming out of this strategy.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Philip. Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Chair. I thought actually it was a rather positive paper overall, and I was struck by David's criticism of the paper for not being positive enough. I thought he then launched into his harbinger of doom speech with a prop of an exit sign. There's a rather odd dichotomy there, but anyway. I just wanted to say around the Our Place theme, which I think I agree with what others have said. You know, we should be celebrating that. That's really, really positive. I noted that it comments on high-end jobs often being taken by people from outside the borough, which is a real shame, and that ensuring a quality housing offer is identified as one of the Our Place themes. And I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of a flavour as to what PVCs can do in that particular space around the housing offering.
So in terms of, okay, so there's a couple of challenges within our places. So first of all, we have to recognise that the housing offer in particular is a bit restricted in terms of the typology of the houses that we have. So we've got many terraced houses, and some of those houses have been demonstrated in the past. For example, Whitefield have been sort of renovated, still keeping the character of the area, still keeping a sense of place within the area, and still bringing them up to modern day standards in terms of refurbishment and a sort of energy efficiency. So that is one element of keeping people in the area, communities in the area, and also maintaining the heritage of the area and celebrating that as well. Another key plank is that where we have land that we can bring forward and help develop that and meet the needs of the local housing in that specific area, try and focus and pulling that forward, and also a real sense of identity of, and I hark back to the statement that was made in the report about the sense of identity and the brand identity for Pendle, and Pendle Pride or whatever strapline is going to be used in that, to make sure that that over the next 4 years is regurgitated enough that people start buying into that process, which then brings in that element of ownership and pride in the area, and then by default keep people in the area and maybe attract new people in the area as well. So there are a number of planks across that board that will help to enforce and bring that forward.
Councillor Tom Whip.
Thank you, Chair. I think just to answer the question around housing, I mean, obviously we've got the new local plan going through its final consultation now on the way to government. Hopefully we meet that window, that very narrow window we've got for the inspector to look at that. And I think in that we've got, you know, several policies which support the development of communities to best support this sort of plan here. Yeah.
I echo those views. Let's get all those in favour. Item 14, I think we'll just continue with Councillor Church. Do you want to introduce this report as the chair of the scrutiny? Do you want to
Thank you, Chair.
introduce it?
The scrutiny for 14.
This is the report from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee based on task and finish group within that. We were asked to examine the economic value against other value of what we have at the moment, which is free bulky waste collection and free replacement of wheelie bins in general. We looked at firstly at comparison with other areas, other boroughs within Lancashire. It was pointed out that we are the only one that offers these services for free. We looked at and considered all the various implications, and you will see the recommendations that we came up with here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Church.
Thank you, Chair. I think the bulk of this is a question of policy, and as such is a matter for council to consider. Now, when we had executive scrutiny arrangements previously, reports went directly to council, and then, you know, action flowed from them. So, you know, clearly this is different to how we've had it previously. I think policy is a matter for the full council, and that's where it should be considered. I'm not going to speak about the substantive issue, because I think the debate should happen at that council meeting. You know, if we do enter into discussion, I mean, there are some points that I would make, not the least of which, I will make it, is that in the recent months, in West Craven, we've had a spate of bin thefts where ne'er-do-wells have been setting fire to the bins, and I think it would add insult to injury to impose a charge on people who have had the bin stolen and set on fire. You know, we've got some budding arsonists out there who need to be brought to heel, but the people who suffered the loss ought not to suffer a loss doubly. However, leave that for the council meeting. I don't think it's something that is within our purview to make a decision on.
Thank you for that.
So
that's
I would
just
move
noted.
that we just refer this to council.
I'm happy to second that. I think Councillor Wood's right that there needs to be a full debate. I'm grateful to Councillor Church and his colleagues for bringing the report. I think if we note it tonight and send it to the next full council meeting, 19th of December, there can be a full debate there amongst all political parties, and hopefully a decision reached with consensus.
Sure. Thank you. Councillor Ahmed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Leader. I think in terms of what's been said so far, I think what the report is actually saying is, just to consider the report, it's not really saying to the executive make a decision. It would be interesting to see what the executive's views are to the comments and the report from the Orview Scrutiny Committee, because they've done some real hard work on this. So I think just to dismiss it and say, well, we'll discuss that for council, I think seems a bit unfair. We've got the representative from the Orview Scrutiny Committee this evening stepping the time out, presenting the report. To simply say, well, we'll discuss that for council, I don't think it's good enough. I think there should be discussion. I'm not saying make a decision, but just hearing from what Councillor Whip is saying, I think we know which way the decision's going on that. But obviously, that's for full council to decide. But I think a discussion would be helpful this evening.
Point noted. Councillor Iqbal.
Yeah, Chairman, I don't think anybody's dismissing it at all. I mean, if anything, there's a recognition of the hard work that's been undertaken by the Task Force Finish Group to escalate it and promote it to full council, for all councillors to have a decision. I mean, there's no point 8 of us having a discussion, or 7 of us, sorry, not my maths wrong there, 7 of us having a discussion, and for example, your group then say, well, we were part of the discussions of the decision making. I think this is an opportunity. I think this is an opportunity for you and your colleagues, Councillor Ahmed, at the full council meeting to play a full and constructive part in terms of addressing the issue in terms of finance, and also the issue of charging people. So I think it recognises the hard work done by the Task and Finish Group and doesn't dismiss it at all. So I disagree with your comments there. I think they're disingenuous.
Councillor Whip.
Well, Chair, I would echo that. I think the paramount decision-taking body is the full council, and it's certainly always been the case in the past that reports of this nature go to the full council, and that is an elevation, not a diminution of its status. It is making it more important rather than less. So I refute what Councillor Ahmed has said.
Thank you. Councillor
Stone. Thank you, Leader. I think it's fair to say that some elements of policy should go to full council, absolutely. However, it's also fair to say that this piece of work done by ONS was agreed with the executive, both the executive. The paper specifically asks for a response from the executive, a discussion, as Councillor Ahmed said. So I think it's worth pointing out that this cross-party group worked really well together and agreed this unanimously, didn't you, Chris? So I think we don't want it embroiled in the politics of full council. It would be quite interesting to get members to just contribute their thoughts, perhaps, tonight at the exec. And
Point noted. Councillor Mick.
I'd be happy to contribute some thoughts, Chair. I don't think so. In the resolve section, part 2, I think 1 to 4 in part 2 there. They're matters for council, policy around charges. But I think we could discuss here tonight 5 and 6 around communal bins and identity chips in the bins. I think identity chips in the bins, we can agree that here for waste services to look into that, certainly. On the communal bins issue, I had a look through the minutes of the Task and Finish group, and it looked at using the orange skips, and it made an assumption of 1 orange skip for every 4 properties, so 300,000 skips for Old Pendle, and that was enough to dismiss communal bins in its entirety as a concept. And I think that's very disingenuous, and obviously I wasn't privy to the full discussion, but that's the only part of it that's in the minutes, and it's not an incredibly valid argument. It's a heavily used concept in a lot of continental Europe. They're implementing it in North Yorkshire, just across the border. And it wouldn't be something that Pendle Council would pay for outright. This is something you would implement phased over a number of years. You would have developers install communal bin infrastructure when they make new developments. And it was something that wouldn't actually cost a lot capitally in the short term. So to say it would cost, what was it, £10 million, I think is not a reason to discount it, because that's not a feasibility study. So to say you shouldn't have a feasibility study because you've decided it's unfeasible, I think is not right. So I think you would need to relook at that again. And I would not like that to go to full council, that we dismiss the idea entirely.
All those in favour of the
Reference.
recommendation? Okay. That's referred to full council. Going back on the agenda to item 4. So we've got telecommunications, tower and associated base station equipment involved. Councillor Doyle.
Chair, at the end of the day, we may not have any choice on this, because the telecoms companies have got trump cards left, right and centre, and they can, well, they've been virtually given carte blanche by different legislation that allows them to do whatever they want to do. And people in Colne are finding the dubious merits of BRSK, and Nelson and Briarfield get, what is it, 5G, sixth generation, whatever. And as a local authority, we don't have the wherewithal to say, no, you can't do this, that and the other. And it may well be the case with this one here. Chair, the West Craven Area Committee resolved to suggest that there was a better location. Not only are the telecoms company wanting to put the mast at the end of a car park, which we had highlighted as a possible site for a new health centre, but also they're proposing to put this mast in the bottom of a former railway cutting. So you need to get up sort of 5 or 6 metres before you actually get above ground, if you get my drift, because it's in a cutting. And it just seems bizarre to me, and perhaps trespassing on the planning side of it, which we'll be discussing on Tuesday, but it seems bizarre to me that you've got to put a much higher mast in than you need in order to get above ground so that you can have your signals going all over the place. When at the opposite side of Raynhall Road, there is a piece of land which is in the ownership of it will be the Police and Crime Commissioner now, where the police station is sited, and they could put a mast on there, and it's on Crown Hill, so, you know, in real terms, it doesn't need to be 20 metres, it could be 15 or whatever. So I'm not happy with this. I think we should await the outcome of the planning process. It comes up at the meeting next Tuesday, and you know, we should revisit this after that planning is determined.
Thank you, Councillor. Let's seek Karen's advice on this. Well, think about more the timing wise. Can you say, will there have any implications on? Because next executive is not until January next year, so.
You could put a caveat on that you either approve this subject to planning. I think if we don't make, because we have held off quite a long time, I think if we don't make a decision soon, they're likely to just invoke their powers and go ahead. We did suggest the alternative site, but they're still convinced that this site is the right site.
Thank you.
The recommendation one says that anyway, doesn't it? Subject to the planning consent.
Chairman, we've considered this at the West Craven Area Committee several times. I think I've always said I would be fine with it on the caveat that if we wanted to build a health centre there, we have provision for them to move it. The break clause here is after 5 years with 18 months notice. If we wanted to build a health centre, 5 years plus 18 months. That is an unreasonable timescale, I think. With local government financing, NHS financing, that amount of lead time would make it so that any grants we could apply for would be completely unmanageable. Competitive bids out the window. I think it nullifies that site as a potential candidate for a health centre in the future. If they were to have a break clause that was better, for simple term, 6 months notice, I think that would be fine. But with that break clause in there, 5 years plus 18 months notice, I can't agree to this lease. I know they can just shove it on us anyway, but I move that we don't accept this in its current form.
Second that.
Okay, so Councillor Whip, you moved. So what do you
I'm seconding him.
So we don't accept this report as it has set out.
We don't agree to it. I think what Tom's saying.
Yeah, I think the break clause is the thing that I can't accept. It was the advice of the area committee when it was first discussed.
Is that something that we can do to reduce the break clause from 6 weeks? Karen?
We can try. I doubt that we'll be successful, but we can go back and try.
Okay. So approved subject to.
No.
Okay.
We're not moving that.
Okay. So we're against it. Okay. Others.
No, Chairman.
Councillor.
Chairman, I'm a bit worried that even if we refuse it, that they can still go right over his carte blanche and do what they want to do. I think the recommendation one, I think, is that we're happy to consider granting a lease subject to planning consent. Now, if planning consent is refused, clearly there's the door's still open for a conversation and to discuss the site where the police station was. Because I suspect that if we just close the door tonight, there's nothing to stop them not even waiting for the planning consent and just invoke what they want to invoke. We have to work with these companies whether we like it or not, and it's a very uneven playing field at the moment. But I would suggest to Councillors Whip and Whip that they withdraw their motion to refuse outright and simply just move recommendation 1. And if planning consent is refused, the door is open then for Philip, whether it's in consultation with yourself and David, to have that conversation and just relay the strength of feeling. And if they want to play ball with the community, then hopefully they'll take that on board. But I just think the shutting the door tonight may well have an adverse reaction.
Councillor Rick, any thoughts?
Well, Chairman, my first suggestion is to await the outcome of the planning process and reconsider it at that point. Councillor Tom Witt went, for the juggler, so I supported him, but my own view is, let's just wait and see what the outcome of the planning process is.
I mean, it'll come back here anyhow. If the planning is refused at West Craven, there's something that comes back anyway, but it at least gives the option of a discussion with them, rather than just saying we're going to plonk it there anyway, whether you like it or not.
So I would go back to my proposal that we await the outcome of the planning process and reconsider it at that time.
So we're going to second it?
No, which is what recommendation in effect says.
No, it says it the other way around.
It's the other way around. So we're going to second it for that.
Happy to second that.
Yeah, so all those in favour of that motion?
Which one?
The one
that so has Tom withdrawn his?
Yeah. Yes.
Right, so we're waiting on this. We wait till the planning outcome.
Yeah, planning application.
Yeah, okay.
All those against? Next item is Quarter 2 Revenue and Capital Outturn Budget Monitoring Report.
Chairman, you've got two excellent officers here that can go through all the technical detail on this. The headlines are that everything is working against us, and whether it's the revenue costs of Pendle rise, accommodating market traders in town, housing homeless people, everything is going the wrong direction, and this is not a good state of affairs. So by my reckoning, we're about £500,000 to the bad, and if you look through the detail, and I'm sure Gemma Louise and Karen will be more than happy to take you through the detail. The stuff that we've got is some of it genuinely unforeseen, but it is not the sort of movement that we want to see. And in terms of sustainability going forward, I mean, we've already made representations in terms of temporary accommodation, for homeless people, made those representations to the MP. In the budget, there might be some hope for future years, but the growth in the number of people who are becoming homeless is huge. I mean, we have penny numbers of people if we go back only 4 or 5 years, and now, a few weeks ago, we had 5 families in temporary accommodation in 1 week, and there is something seriously wrong with the homelessness situation for that shift, and it's not just in Pendle, it's across the country, and that's something that we are giving a lot of attention to. But the other stuff, Chair, we weren't going to cast the market traders in Colne out onto the street, as would have happened previously. In terms of Pendle Rise, I still believe that ought to be accommodated within the whole of the Nelson Town deal. Can't be done, and so we're having to take that on the chin. But it's not cheap. We're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, and it all comes out of the reserve. So I don't think this is a very good report in terms of the position. Obviously we're getting into next year's budget now. Things are as they are, but yeah, not a happy place.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you want to?
Just to highlight two areas, we've added a new table at the behest of external and internal audit at point 10 that just highlights the savings that were agreed by Council in February and marks the progress that we've made on those savings. I must say, colleagues said they didn't know what my rag status meant, the red, green and amber. Exactly what they were portraying. So I've tried to note underneath that green means we've met or exceeded the saving that was proposed and agreed. Amber means that we've made some progress in the area but not yet met the saving, and red is without an out. I think it will happen because it changes in circumstances. Also highlighted is point 14, but it's not meant to be. So we don't know how to unhighlight it. We're numbers people, we don't know how to use the word document. So other than that, highlights to changes in the capital programme at quarter 2. So additional funding in DFG and swimming pool fund, and what was noted at exec in May, an additional match fund to the local project, so municipal theatre. I think it's important to highlight to you that prudential borrowing on the capital programme is now exceeding £8 million. That has not all been borrowed and will not all be borrowed in order to be funded, as we have quite a lot of funds in-house at the moment. But it does mean there is an effect on our revenue year on year to pay that money back to the capital pot.
Thank you.
I move the report.
Yeah, is it seconded? Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Gemma Louise, because I think that this is a much more clear report. You've enhanced this considerably, and I think it's really good in that sense. So thank you for doing that. Just around paragraph 19, which you touched on prudential borrowing, and you note that we've had an over-borrowed position in recent years, although it's somewhat reduced, but that we will need to borrow further. Could you just, through the Chair, if that's all right, explain the implications of being over-borrowed and the extent to which we can go over-borrowed?
There is no legal limit for over-borrowing. I've been through this with our Treasury Management advisors a few times, because obviously as soon as you say over-borrowed, it sounds like something that you shouldn't be doing. The reason you wouldn't do it is it's not affordable to do. You don't have assets in-house with which you could easily repay them should something terrible happen. So the idea is to stay within what is affordable to repay and what can be repaid in an emergency if something changes drastically. As point 19 points out, this has been reduced over time and we're now in an under-borrowed situation. This has been helped because we've had a lot of funds to hand, because we've received a lot of the grant funding for major projects in advance of spend. We've been able to use those monies and repay them before they were needed. So we are in a better position, but we do have to keep an eye on it, because the capital programme is it's a positive programme. It looks for us to make positive changes in the area and to do things that will help to sustain Pendle in the future. But it does, whilst it is trying to make those advances, we have to keep it affordable. So.
Chairman, just on this point, I'd refer councillors to Appendix C, page 8 of the next report, which is the Treasury Management, and there's a chart showing the maturity of borrowing, and you can see that in this financial year and the next financial year we have £2.5 million of debt which will be redeemed. So there is borrowing being paid off, £2.5 million worth this year and next financial year, and that to offset the figures that Councillor Stone has referred to.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Next item is Treasury Management Review Report.
Well, Chair, can I move the Treasury Management Report? I'm sure that our officers would be delighted to give you a blow-by-blow account of all this small print that we have, with the advice from our external advisors. For me, I'll just move it.
Second it.
Do you want to comment on it, or you okay?
No, she doesn't.
No,
just move it.
All those in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you, that's carried. So next item is land transfer of land at Cotton Tree Lane, Colne.
Chair, there is a revised report on this and requirement, and it's a small extension to the amount of land required, which is explained in the additional papers that have been sent round to people. So I would move that.
Thank you. Second that. Thank you. Those in favour? That's carried. Next item is the A-Centre air conditioning system.
Chair, I mean, this is another one where we thought we'd moved the most of the building on to other people, and we find that the air conditioning system isn't adequate, isn't satisfactory, needs to be sorted out, and guess what? Pendle Council end up being the body that has to pay for it, and it's not an insignificant amount of money. So the recommendations are that we do add this to the capital programme. I would dearly love for some of the occupants, owners of part of the building to be responsible for this, but that is not the case. So recommendations are that we do add it to the capital programme, that we recommend that the council approves a supplementary capital estimate of 104,000 and accepts the contribution from Nelson and Colne College of £46,000, and approves the request for an exemption from contract procedure rules as set out in the report. And the reason for doing that is we've been trying to get the college in the remaining part of the building for, well, many months, well over a year, and this is a stumbling block to get their occupation, get their use and get the spoke of the digital offer that they're doing. If we don't do this, that all falls apart, and we're left with a building, or part of a building, that we'll still be responsible for, and having to find all the wherewithal to keep it going. So this is the least worst option, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it needs to be done. So I move it.
Thank you.
Second it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to make too fine a point of this, just with the time constraints and all this is under. However, you can get reversible you can get reversible climate control units that heat as well as cool. They're called air source heat pumps, and they're the exact same thing as climate control except they can be run in reverse.
Door to door.
And this could have been an excellent opportunity for carbon reduction. And I think we're missing opportunities again and again and again, where they should be easy wins.
Thank you, Councillor. Point noted.
Well, Chairman, this is completely unrehearsed because we haven't discussed it, but you recall when we discussed this informally that I made almost exactly the same point, word for word, and the officers said, well, you know, it's too late, we need to get it done, and we can only X, Y, and Z. I agree wholeheartedly with what Councillor Tom Whipper said. It should have been an air source heat pump solution rather than just having an air conditioning system.
There's no difference in the technology. It just has a button that lets you run it the opposite way around.
Is there a difference in price?
Yeah. It's not a lot in comparison.
What's not a lot?
The difference in price.
Well,
Right, no, point noted. It also depends also.
Yeah.
You know, Nelson College. I don't know what their requirement is.
Well,
and I think one point I would like to make is obviously this the air conditioning should have been maintained during COVID and when it was not being used. Okay, I know we're improving this to support what's in front of us because we need to get Nelson College on site and have that footfall and occupancy and upskilling. I think we should also ask PLT and have that conversation to maybe contribute something towards this.
So that's a zero-sum exercise because if you say put it on Pendle Leisure Trust, they just come back to us and say, we need a bigger management fee. That doesn't earn us anything. I think in terms of the air source heat pump issue, the critical thing is that we need to get the college in there as soon as. You know, I've advocated for the air source heat pump. You know, if that's still a possibility at this stage, let's do it. But in terms of the critical path, it's getting the college there.
That's right. All those in favour? Thank you. Bodies in motion. Bradley Gordon project. Councillor Iqbal.
Chairman, can I move the recommendations as set out? I mean, I've had a conversation with them last week, and their funders have asked them now to start work rather than waiting for the additional funding, and hopefully there'll be other avenues that they can explore outside of this council, because obviously the council hasn't got £100,000 about. But I think we need to extend the lease for them then to explore the funding issue, so I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Second. All those in favour? Yeah. Next item is performance update report. I'll happy move the report. If there's any questions, comments? No? All those in favour? It's carried. So we've got matters referred from the, sorry, the blue one. So next one is, matters referred from the committee. So land adjacent to 26 Poplar Street.
Chairman, can I move the recommendation as set out?
Yeah, I'd like to second that.
All those in favour? Yeah. Okay. Next item is land at Keeper Road, Venture Bridge.
Well, Chair, with this one, the reports are all here, and if you look at page 2 of the report that went to Colney District Committee, I think this request initially was because of the dilapidated condition of some garages. If you look at the aerial view there, towards the entrance of the site, there's a block of dilapidated, garages that the local people were very concerned about. Now, those aren't part of the garage site owned by Pendle Council, and I think the initial impetus for this was the parish council wanting to sort that little block of garages out, and they thought they were part of the Pendle site, so that stimulated the initial request. They're not in our ownership, aren't the dilapidated ones. I'm not saying that the others are in absolutely brand new condition, but they're not bad. I've been to have a look. And I think for the reasons set out in the report, that garage sites do provide a positive income to the council, that we should endorse the views that the subgroup that looked at this and declined the request.
Seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Next item is the form plan.
Noted.
Thank you. So we've just got an emergency item. It's the solar photovoltaic installation at Waverlands they sent in Nelson.
Yes, Chair. You'll recall that we were successful in getting some funding from the Swimming Pool Support Fund for work at Wavelengths, and the cost, the tenders for the work, which you can see over the page there, have come in above the threshold for officer, within the delegation scheme, for officer approval. So it has to come here, and because we didn't have it on the agenda, and because it's time critical work, that's the need for urgency. So I would move that we do agree to this, and that we can then get on with the work. Can I just comment, Chair, that when I found that there were 26 people with an interest in tendering, of which I can't just work out how many didn't, but or void, but there is a lot of interest in this area, and I have never seen a tender list that has had so many businesses wanting to do it. So I hope we've got as keen a price as possible here, and I would propose that we do award it to Speakman Contractors Limited.
Second. Yeah. I think the only comment is that ideally this item should have been on within the work programme as well, and funding was approved some time ago. So I know there's been some delays somewhere. Well, we can check that out from the department.
Can I move exclusion of public and press, Chairman?
Well, Chair, on that, can I just question why we need to? I mean, we've just taken one in open committee, which is waiving, and agreeing to somebody, and then we've got another one here, which is an exemption issue, and I just don't see why we need to kick people out.
I've been advised it's matter for the executive.
Leave it open then.
Right, I leave it open. Yeah.
That's right. Who's moving? Who's moving to kind of proceed with that process?
We're happy to move the recommendation then, aren't we? There's nothing to hide.
Second, Chair.
Yeah. So I mean, just to come on, let's talk about it. So this is security for Pendle Rise, and when we took ownership of Pendle Rise, it was like, the sky was falling in because there were all sorts of issues with it, and we needed to do urgently put mitigation factors in place which protected people, protected the health and safety of the occupants, and made sure that the rather disgusting conditions that the previous owner had allowed it to fall into didn't continue. This is part of that, and I think it was absolutely essential that we did so. So, you know, happy to support, move or whatever the contract procedure rules as required.
All those in favour?
And just point out, this is part of the extra expenditure that we're having to incur.
Thank you very much, everyone.
It's a record for the show. It's a record.